Have you ever walked into a room, said something completely normal, at least to you, and felt the temperature drop? Maybe you asked a deeper question when everyone else was making small talk. Maybe you corrected a tiny detail that didn't really matter. Maybe you just stayed quiet, and somehow that silence made people uneasy. And you thought, wait, what did I do? We grow up believing intelligence is universally admired, that if you're thoughtful, perceptive, sharp, people will naturally appreciate it. But the psychological reality? Intelligence doesn't just illuminate rooms. Sometimes it exposes them, and that can make people uncomfortable. If you've ever felt like your mind somehow creates friction in social spaces, this isn't about ego. It's about understanding the subtle psychology behind why intelligent people often disrupt emotional equilibrium without even trying. Let me show you what's really happening. Picture this. You're at dinner with friends. The conversation is light, harmless gossip, surface level opinions. Then someone says something factually wrong, not malicious, just inaccurate. And your brain? It lights up like a Christmas tree. You feel the urge to clarify, not to embarrass, not to dominate, just to align reality with truth. But the moment you gently correct it, something shifts. The energy tightens. Someone jokes, "Wow, okay, professor?" Another person rolls their eyes. What just happened? Psychologically, intelligence often triggers something called social comparison theory, first explored by Leon Festinger. Humans constantly evaluate themselves in relation to others. It's automatic, unconscious, survival-based. When you demonstrate knowledge or sharp thinking, it can unintentionally activate comparison in others. And if that comparison threatens their sense of competence, discomfort follows. It's not about you being arrogant, it's about them feeling measured. That's reason number one. Intelligent people raise the comparison bar without trying. And here's the twist. You may not even be competing, but your clarity feels like a spotlight. And not everyone likes standing under bright lights. Now let's go deeper. Intelligent people tend to ask better questions, not louder questions, not more aggressive ones, just deeper. Instead of, "How was your weekend?" you might ask, "Did that experience change how you see things?" Instead of, "What do?" you might ask, "Do you enjoy it?" Those questions sound harmless, but they pull conversations beneath the surface, and depth requires vulnerability. Many people are comfortable skating on emotional ice. Intelligent curiosity cracks that ice open. Suddenly, we're not just discussing weather, we're discussing purpose. That's reason number two. Depth makes people confront themselves, and not everyone wants to do that at a birthday party. There's also something subtle about pattern recognition. Highly intelligent people tend to notice inconsistencies, social dynamics, contradictions, unspoken tensions. You may sense when someone's smile doesn't match their tone. You may notice when a group avoids a topic. You may see the emotional undercurrent running beneath casual conversation. Here's the thing. When you respond to what's actually happening instead of what's being performed, it disrupts the script. And humans love scripts. Scripts feel safe. When you break them, even gently, it creates cognitive dissonance, that uncomfortable mental tension we feel when reality and self-image don't align. You might say, "You don't seem excited about that promotion." And suddenly, someone feels exposed. That's reason number three. Intelligent perception dissolves social masks, and masks, even fragile ones, are protective. Now let's talk about silence. There's a myth that intelligent people are always talking, but often the opposite is true. They observe, they listen, they calculate, and prolonged silence in social settings makes people nervous. Why? Because humans are wired to interpret silence. Is it judgment, disapproval, superiority? When you're quietly thinking, others may project meaning onto your stillness. In psychology, we call this projection, attributing our own insecurities to someone else. If someone feels uncertain, your quiet composure can look like critique. That's reason number four. Stillness gets misread as evaluation. Even if you're just deciding whether the fries are worth the calories, there's also the way intelligent people communicate. Precision matters to you, nuance matters. You may dislike oversimplification. You may challenge vague statements with, "What do you mean exactly?" To you, that's clarity. To someone else, it can feel like interrogation. Our brains are lazy processors. They prefer shortcuts, heuristics, quick agreement. When you introduce complexity, you increase cognitive load. That means more mental effort. And humans subconsciously resist mental strain in casual settings. So when you say, "It's more complicated than that," you're not being difficult, you're being accurate. But accuracy isn't always socially convenient. That's reason number five. Intelligence slows down conversations that others want to keep simple, and simplicity feels comfortable. Now, here's something more emotional. Intelligent people often value authenticity over belonging. You might not laugh at a joke you don't find funny. You might not agree just to smooth things over. You might prioritize truth over harmony, and that can destabilize group cohesion. There's classic research by Solomon Asch showing how people conform to group opinions, even when they're clearly wrong, just to avoid standing out. If you're the one who says, "Actually, I don't see it that way," you disrupt conformity pressure, and disruption feels threatening to collective identity. That's reason number 6. Independent thinking unsettles group comfort, even if you say it kindly, even if you smile. Finally, and this one's quieter but powerful, intelligent people often change, rapidly. You update beliefs when presented with new evidence. You evolve perspectives. You abandon outdated ideas. And while that sounds positive, it can feel destabilizing to others who anchor relationships in predictability. If who you are keeps expanding, people may struggle to categorize you, and humans love categories. They reduce uncertainty. When you don't fit neatly into a box, you introduce ambiguity. And ambiguity triggers anxiety. That's reason number 7. Growth makes you harder to define and harder to control. But pause here. None of this means you should shrink yourself, or dull your curiosity, or soften your clarity to make rooms more comfortable. It means understanding the social mechanics at play. Intelligence is like bright light. It reveals detail. It sharpens contrast. But brightness can strain eyes that are used to dimness. The goal isn't to dim the light, it's to learn how to adjust it. Because there's a difference between awareness and arrogance, between curiosity and condescension, between clarity and coldness. If you've ever felt isolated because your mind works a little differently, remember this. Discomfort is not always rejection. Sometimes it's recalibration. You stretch the psychological space people are used to occupying, and stretching can sting before it strengthens. At the same time, it's important to reflect honestly. Are you correcting to connect or to win? Are you asking deep questions to understand or to signal intelligence? Self-awareness keeps intelligence from turning sharp. The most powerful minds pair insight with warmth. Think of figures like Socrates, not just questioning, but inviting dialogue, or modern researchers like Brené Brown who combine intellect with vulnerability. Intelligence lands differently when it feels collaborative rather than competitive. You don't have to perform smallness to belong, but you can choose timing, tone, empathy. You can read the room without betraying yourself, and you can find spaces where your depth is not intimidating but nourishing. Because here's the hidden truth. The same traits that make some people uncomfortable will make others feel profoundly understood. Your pattern recognition will make someone feel seen. Your deep questions will make someone feel valued. Your independence will give someone permission to think freely. Not every room is meant for your frequency. That's not superiority, that's alignment. So if you've ever walked away from a social interaction wondering why things felt slightly off, don't immediately assume you did something wrong. Sometimes you simply brought intensity to a space built for ease, and sometimes that's exactly what growth requires. I'd love to know, have you ever experienced this? A moment where your curiosity, your silence, or your clarity shifted the atmosphere? Tell me in the comments. Let's explore it together. And if this made you see yourself, or someone in your life, a little more clearly, stick around. There's a lot more psychology beneath everyday moments than we're ever taught to notice. Your mind isn't a problem to solve, it's a light to learn how to carry.